Oh, I didn't. Okay. Maybe. Let's see. What is that? It's like the opposite side than you would expect for the camera. I'm gonna use your binder, Kathleen.
Maybe do it the other way so I can.
No, I know there's kind of like a glare. I think that's okay though. It's just the lights.
Pretty much say everything that's on the slides too.
Okay. Cool. Maybe we just wait a few more minutes. It's just I can't believe the video is working and it's before 1 o'clock. I'm getting better, guys.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. Woo. Maybe it's Tara. Maybe she's bad luck for me. She's not here today.
I think I took your bad luck because our stuff wasn't working until like 30 minutes ago. So
See, you didn't even have to say. That was like
wouldn't even know.
we wouldn't even know. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Come on in.
Good.
I didn't put the flag on this side. I guess everybody's fine. Yes, okay. It's in the other room. It's okay.
The flag.
Yeah, there's like that big Better Breeders meeting today.
How are you doing?
Flag.
Doing good. Did you start from India yet? What do you think?
Yeah, I was there yesterday and it was good.
All
I liked
right.
it. I liked it.
Good. Also,
They put you through the paces.
but not so much that you can't.
No. But I think they're gonna crank it up.
Yeah, they'll crank it.
Right.
You're good.
And it all went pretty fast. And
Yep.
I stayed this year.
Yep. All right. Fantastic.
Yeah. What days do you go?
I'm Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
Thursday. Yeah.
Sorry. Run down in 23.
I'm so glad that you started. I knew you'd like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good program.
I think I've only got 2 weeks left now.
Oh man. I know. And this is your second though.
Yeah,
So
but I've got my first one after, so.
Yeah.
I just keep on keeping on.
yeah. Did you go to the Alpha One Education Day? I thought I heard you asking a question. I did it virtual. Yeah. I was like, you
Yes, I
asked.
did ask a question.
Yeah, about checking your levels. I was like, oh, this is like Kathleen. Hello, welcome. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, come on in. I can grab a seat.
Right, it smells good here.
Yeah. The food class is getting a lot of people to come in. So my snacks are not appetizing enough. We need the dietitian.
Now, she might be a dietitian, but can she cook?
I mean, it smells like she can. I don't know.
Has anybody else here changed their diet already from what you were doing? I knew you guys had.
Well, he didn't have a choice.
I just had, I'm just gonna share,
Yeah.
because I'm so happy. I changed my diet in April. And I've now lost 20 pounds. And all of my cholesterol and all that stuff has gone from here this way, the whole
panel.
panel. And I'm
So
just like, it works.
That's
I
awesome.
was really excited about that.
You're lucky because I changed and all my labs went down, but my weight went up. Yeah. But I quit smoking on top of it.
Well, that's doing it every time. I gained 30 pounds when I quit, so that's what I'm getting rid of.
Yeah.
That, you know, sitting around and not doing anything.
Yeah, it creeps for
You said
sure.
eight, right?
Oh, that's yours. That's
Oh,
gonna lose. I went to do it on this computer.
yeah, I think the black out was just burning out, so. keep it on.
What did you change your diet to?
Basically, I got rid of 98% of the sugar. There's some things that have sugar in them that, I'm not gonna get rid of. I cut out red meat almost exclusively because I was a red meat fanatic. And so now it's chicken and turkey if I eat meat. And then I have a lot more vegetables in my diet. I've always liked vegetables and fruit, and they were in my diet, but I didn't pay attention to portions very well, especially if I really liked something. That was one portion,
Yeah.
So that's really it. It was just, I didn't go to like a complete paleo or complete, I just said, okay, these are the things that I need to do differently. And I now use maybe one little thing of butter for a month instead of if I was good for a week. Yeah, I really cut out a lot of that kind of stuff, so. No more biscuits and gravy.
I did not even hire her, but that's a perfect intro for what we're talking about today. That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Awesome. And yeah, I didn't know you were gonna talk about that, so it's perfect.
I-
Perfect segue right into
I
what we're
was
talking
waiting
about.
for it to start, and I thought, well, we'll just do this.
Yeah,
But I can
absolutely.
shut up now.
No, that was perfect. I love hearing success stories too. That's amazing. And a lot of stuff we'll talk about today, stuff you already kind of touched on.
No,
So, or do you want to keep waiting for?
No. You're good to start.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, my name is Kally. I'm a registered dietitian. I actually work up here at the Kally Pulmonary Rehab Program. So if you've been through the program, I recognize a couple faces as well. So if you are coming, it sounds like you just started. So I'm sure I'll be seeing you around just for little talks after class. And yeah, we're just going to talk about some dietary tips to breathe better. We'll start with just some kind of general recommendations that can be helpful, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some specifics of kind of foods to incorporate, foods to limit that can help with overall inflammation and lung function, which is what we're all here to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and I've got Madison. She's my intern this week. She'll be running around helping me out with some of our demo stuff. We'll talk for about 20 minutes, and then I've got some, then I'll feed you guys some samples, and then we'll make another sample after that as well, too. We'll do a couple. What's the purpose of talking about food if we don't get to try some? So just a couple general tips for lung health, energy levels as well, too. Especially when you have that increased work of breathing. Good tip is to try and eat more earlier in the day. Typically, people have better energy levels earlier in the morning. If that's true for you, that's a great time to eat the biggest meal. If you have energy, that's a great time to do some food prep. If you feel like it's a different time of day for you, listen to that as well too. But really kind of a great habit to get into is kind of listening to your body cues. Typically, morning is a little bit of a better time for most people. And then just some tips for breathing when eating. Sitting upright while eating can be helpful, just kind of uses that pressure on our lungs. And if you wear supplemental oxygen, wearing your oxygen when you're eating meal times, we need oxygen to eat, to digest our food. Good habit to get into as well, just to feel better. The next one we'll talk about is, we'll talk about this one a little bit more in depth as well too, because this is a pretty common recommendation for pulmonary health. And we'll talk about some strategies, because a lot of the foods we'll talk about tend to be higher in fiber, foods people might associate with more gas and bloating. So we'll talk about some strategies to kind of combat that as we go along as well too. But a full abdomen can make us uncomfortable while we're eating. It just puts that extra pressure on our lungs. Gas and foods that cause bloating contribute to that as well too, kind of leads to that discomfort. So ideally, we would limit those foods. Oftentimes it's foods that are higher in fiber, like beans. I hear beans a lot. People are like, I can't eat beans because they, make me gassy, bloated. Definitely something I think we can incorporate. A lot of times we're not eating a lot of fiber in our diet on a regular basis. The Standard American diet provides very little amounts of fiber. So when we have a really fibrous meal, like a bowl of chili, a couple times a year, for example, it's got a bunch of beans, that's when you feel that gas, that bloating. It's not something we're having regularly. So if a goal, because we'll talk about benefits of a lot more of those plant foods as we go along. So if a goal is to be increasing those nice higher fiber foods, Some strategies to do that. Starting slow, gradually increasing our amount of fiber that we're eating throughout the day. If we have foods that we tolerate well, like fruits and veggies, incorporating more of those initially. Things like beans, it's all about frequency. So starting with really small amounts more often, and then you can kind of up the volume of those beans and kind of listening to our bodies with that gas and bloating response. But that's a great way to incorporate more of those high fiber foods. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but higher fiber diets is actually associated with better lung function as well too. So we want to be increasing these high fiber foods. Just doing it slowly is a way to kind of help tolerate. And on that same note, like we were just talking about, a full abdomen makes breathing less comfortable. So instead of having, sticking to kind of standard, really 3 large meals throughout the day, sometimes smaller, more frequent snacks and meals throughout the day can just kind of help ease up that burden on our lungs as well too. And focusing on nice nutrient dense foods, especially if energy levels are low as well too. We want to make sure we're getting the proper food, nutrition, fuel, and it doesn't have to be super complicated. Pulled in some pictures for examples, but things like a nice little wrap we could throw in some lean protein, some veggies, fruits and vegetables, great little thing to snack on. Hummus, if you assume you ever tried hummus before, awesome. And kind of a nice way to start trying out beans. They're kind of blended up. It's like some of the work's already been done for our bodies a little bit too, so kind of can be a fun way to try out some beans. Popcorn as a snack, a nice whole grain snack option as well too. Healthy fats, incorporating some healthy fats throughout the day as well. So things like nut butters, dried fruits as well too, if we're looking for something quick, easy to grab, or if we're going to be out and about during the day, nice little snack to have on hand. Nuts and seeds, smoothie. We're going to talk about smoothies a little bit today, and that's going to be one of our. There we go. Nope, we're back. Okay, we'll see what happens. Let's be one of our samples that we'll make up, because smoothies are a great place to jam pack a lot of those really high nutrient foods in. And as we're up in the fiber as well too, blended up fiber sometimes we tolerate a little better. We don't have that same sensation of like gas and bloating as well too, because again, kind of some of the work's been done for us, but we're still getting those benefits of the fiber as well. Avocados, whole grain bread. And then trying to choose some foods that are easier to prepare and do more bulk cooking, more meal planning. This can be super helpful. I think for everyone, this is something I'm always working on too. Just makes the week a little bit easier, especially if you have times where energy levels are a little bit lower. It's nice to kind of, if you have days that you feel a bit more energized or times of day that you've got more energy, doing some of that prep work can be a great investment in the rest of the week, just to kind of keep us on track with maybe some of these food and nutrition goals as well too. So reviewing the week ahead, finding some time that you're going to have a little bit of time to do some prep work. This one, number 2, is my favorite tip. I recommend it to everybody. If our goal is to eat more fruits and vegetables, sometimes we get really motivated at the grocery store, we grab them, we put them in the cart, we get home, we throw them in the crisper drawers, and then we pull them out a couple weeks later and toss them in the garbage because they're unrecognizable.
That's
me. Yes, right, it's so easy to do. I never tell people to put produce in the crisper drawers. When I come from the grocery store, or if you need to wait a couple hours, then pulling it all out, prepping it up, making it ready to eat. If you're looking for a quick snack or want to, incorporate more fruits and veggies, it's a lot less motivating if you have to go, cut up the whole head of broccoli. If you've already done it for yourself, or you bought the pre-chopped broccoli, much more likely to eat those foods as well too. So I think that one's just helpful for everybody. And then making up 1 to 2 meals throughout the week, and planning to have some leftovers to kind of make things a little bit easier as well too. And if we're trying to incorporate new foods, maybe picking 1 or 2 recipes to try during the week as well too. If we're like, I need to change everything I'm doing, make a meal plan of all different foods, that's just going to be, no one's going to stick to that. That's way too much work all at once. The first recipe we'll sample as well is that first one on the sheet pan roasted veggies and chickpeas. That's a really nice one to make ahead of time, and I'll kind of talk about roasting veggies when I start pulling those out of the oven. But roasting veggies is one of my favorite ways to increase vegetable intake. Just kind of gives them a nice different flavor, texture. Great to prep up ahead of time. Leave them in the fridge, you can pull them out and add them as a nice, quick, easy side dish at meals throughout the week. So great thing to do ahead of time for ourselves. I used fresh for this. You can also roast up frozen veggies. They actually roast up pretty well too, so we'll kind of talk about some tips for roasting veggies when we get to that. Sodium, this is a big one for all of us. It's in everything. We can see on there, ideally, we would limit our sodium intake to 2,000 milligrams or less per day. A teaspoon of table salt has about 2,300 milligrams of sodium, so it adds up really, really quickly, very easy to get more than is recommended. Our biggest source of sodium in the diet in the U.S. though comes from packaged foods you get from the grocery store. They tend to add sodium to a lot of foods from the store. So label reading is a great habit to get into. And reasons why we want to limit sodium. If we're retaining that extra fluid in our bodies, it can just make it harder to breathe. It kind of puts that extra burden on our lungs as well too. Kind of triggers the body's inflammatory response. We'll kind of talk about inflammation a little bit more in a second. So trying to cut down on the more processed, packaged foods, label reading, great habits to get into.
Have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Alrighty, and then, like you're talking about, eating more whole plant foods is going to be a lot of what we talk about today as well too. There's a lot of reasons. Like I mentioned, research shows fiber is correlated with increased lung function, better lung health. Also, the foods that contain fiber are whole plant foods, so things like the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the beans, the nuts and seeds. Those foods not only are packed in fiber, they are where we get a lot of vitamins, minerals. They're also rich in antioxidants, which antioxidants are what our body uses to kind of neutralize, we call them free radicals. They're just the cells that cause damage in our body. So antioxidants just help to overall suppress that inflammation response. So really great when it comes to lung function, lung health, and overall health and reducing inflammation. And a big thing with this is color. We want to get lots of different colors from our foods. Different colors means they're doing different things in our bodies as well too. So eat the rainbow, but I'm not talking about Skittles because that's something people like to ask. So, and then a lot of words on this slide. I'll kind of read off what it says, but just some tips in general to kind of fight inflammation. Because that's the big thing we want to focus on when we're talking about lung health. So more of those anti-inflammatory foods. So the fruits, the vegetables, the colors, like we mentioned. I don't recommend taking supplements though to meet those vitamin and mineral needs, with the exception of maybe vitamin D. Just in Idaho, we don't always get that adequate exposure to sunlight. Really high doses of vitamins and minerals, they've actually found can kind of cross over and become more pro-inflammatory as well too. So hard to get too much from the whole food sources. And then herbs and spices, I think we sometimes overlook as well too. They are also a great source of, a lot of those nutrients in the food cross over to herbs, spices, dried herbs and spices we get the same benefits from too. So if we're cutting back on the sodium, but want to keep the flavor and get more health benefits, let's really bulk up on some of those seasonings as well too. Great way to do it. Yeah.
Real quick question. I was told to do a vitamin B12 substitute because I'm not eating the red meats.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
That's the only other one with the exception of B12 is one I recommend if people are doing a lot more of the plant-based eating.
Yep.
So yeah, that's totally appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's perfect. Absolutely. And then foods that are rich in vitamin C and E. Vitamin C and E have been found to kind of help combat inflammation as well too. Again, we don't want to take supplements, but these are some of the foods that we get some good sources of vitamin C and E. So kind of the oranges and the reds in nature, so things like bell peppers, oranges, strawberries, broccoli is surprisingly high in vitamin C as well too, sweet potatoes, and then we also want to, those are kind of the vitamin C foods. Vitamin E is found in some of those healthy fats, so things like canola, sunflower, safflower oils, if we're cooking with some oils. Nuts and seeds, eggs actually are a decent source as well too, and wheat germ. And then the last one is omega-3 fats. So omega-3s are also helpful for reducing inflammation. And ones that we probably all could work on getting a little bit more omega-3s in our diet. We kind of tend to be lacking good sources of omega-3s. So Things like salmon, seafood can be a good source, tuna. Couple times a week, great way to do it. If you're not a big seafood person, that's really okay too. I won't force you to eat fish. We get a lot of those benefits from some of the nuts and seeds as well too. Walnuts are especially high, flaxseed, chia seeds, and hemp hearts as well too. So, and our smoothie, we're gonna jam pack we're gonna try a lot of these foods today as well too, to kind of try out some examples. I've got a little survey that we'll go through. I'm gonna kind of check how we're doing time.
3 minutes left.
Okay, we're gonna just take a quick peek at our veggies just to make sure we're not.
That would be a shame.
Yes, right. I don't think we can overdo it, but you never know. With me, it's possible.
Yeah. I wanted to have it on my phone because of chat, but
So, good intermission to take before we do our little survey together. I'll kind of talk about the recipe and then I'll show you how to make we're just gonna make a quick little sauce to go with these roasted veggies and beans if we were, planning up doing a little bit of meal prepping for the week. So recipe, and like I said, I used fresh broccoli, carrots. I put that on one pan with some shallots. I did cover that pan with tin foil because I got the oven pretty hot, and we're roasting our sweet potatoes and our beans on the other pan, and those ones just we want to cook a little bit more. They kind of like the higher heat. The broccoli just might get a little bit too singed if we leave it uncovered. We don't want it that browning. I also had some cloves of garlic. I just wrapped them in foil. I put a little drizzle of avocado oil on these. Roasted them in the oven, and we're going to use that as kind of the base for our little sauce. It's going to go with this. Roasting, you're great.
I'm all about this.
Roasting the garlic is great. It's quite a bit of garlic. Roasting it kind of brings out a little bit more of that sweetness flavor, kind of cuts some of that bitterness as well too. So it's kind of a nice way to enhance taste and flavor. So I'll whip up our sauce really quick, and then we'll dish up, and then we'll kind of go through our serve rate, and we'll make our smoothie as well. So cruising right along. The veggies have need a few more minutes, but we'll make our sauce. Dressings are sauces. They're actually pretty easy to make up ahead of time, and then keep in the fridge for the week to kind of pull out and add to dishes. Very cheap way to kind of incorporate some of these principles as well too. Lots of flavor. Great way to cut back on the sodium as well. So I've got my garlic. This is just a teaspoon of dried thyme, just getting some of those herbs and spices. We're gonna toss that in there. And then tahini. Has anyone here ever heard of or familiar with tahini? Awesome. Okay, great. So yes, nuts and seeds. It's made from sesame seeds. It's pretty common in like Mediterranean style dishes as well too. Most grocery stores, it'll be by like the nut butters. Like you can find the peanut butter, usually the tahini's right over there. Usually on a top shelf or a bottom shelf. Yeah, it's not eye level, so you have to look around a little bit for it. But great base, just kind of a very neutral tasting nut butter. It's got some of that vitamin E like we were talking about, so kind of just a nice base for some of these dressings and sauces. This is a 1/4 cup. I just pre-measured some stuff.
Is it a mix of nuts or something?
It's like peanut butter, but it's sesame seeds. So it's just ground sesame seeds. Toss that in. Alrighty, and then I do have some Dijon mustard as well too. A little flavor, a little bit of spiciness.
Another name for that is tahini.
Tahini? Yes, we got the tahini. Alrighty, and then I have a cup of, I just did a plain non-sweetened soy milk for kind of to blend this up with.
What kind of Dijon did you use?
I'm not 100% sure. I did order the groceries through the kitchen at the hospital that does the catering, and that they just gave me that little container and labeled it Dijon. So I'm not totally sure. When I do it at home, I like to get the stone ground Dijon mustard at the grocery store. That's one I usually use, but it looks different than this one. This one looks almost like the grape pond. It kind of smells like that one. So I'm thinking maybe that's what they used, but. Alrighty, and then it's gonna be loud for just a quick second. So this is my food processor. I would usually do this in the blender, but I'm gonna use the blender for our smoothies. That's why I'm using this instead of the blender, but maybe. And so our dressing's ready. We'll serve that up when those vegetables are finished roasting, and then we'll whip up our smoothie. So, it's like the worst. There you go. Yeah, it's not like mine at home. Like that one's like a spaceship, but it works. So, so I have a little survey that I like to go through. If you've done the rehab program, you've probably seen these questions already too. It's the last paper I had in that little stack for you as well too. It's just kind of all written out on there. Great guideline just for things to goals to aim for when it comes to food, nutrition.
Oh, thank you.
Shift this. Oh gosh,
I'm slacking.
it's a terrible angle. Okay,
Videography duties.
there we go. And it's called Score Your Plant-Based Plate. So as we go through these questions, if you answer yes to any of them, you can give yourself a point, kind of keep track of your score. If you answer no, just don't give yourself a point for that one. And I always tell people it's great to just kind of maybe pick one of these categories. So maybe set a goal around I like to focus more on that first column. We're going to go through the foods to get more of. So those are going to be where we're getting a lot of these great benefits. So maybe setting a goal around that. And then when you get comfortable incorporating more of those things, then you can maybe pick another one to set a goal around. But I think this is just a nice little assessment tool. So our first one, like we were talking about, those vegetables. Do you eat 2.5 cups or more of vegetables per day on most days? A cup is about the size of a baseball. So that's a lot of volume when it comes to these veggies. That's why I wanted to do a smoothie, because that's a great way to kind of jam pack some good veggies in. Good way to sneak them in as well too. But the more the merrier when it comes to vegetables. If you get maybe a cup and a half most days, maybe give yourself half a point for this question. But great one to work on. We kind of talked about a lot of the benefits from all of those different colors. And you can think of the dark leafy greens are very high in those antioxidants. If we're talking about the carrots, broccoli, bell peppers, zucchini, whatever you enjoy is going to count for these. Oh, and I don't know why. Oh, yep, vegetables. There we go. Next one is fruits. So do you eat 2 servings of fruit or more per day? So about a cup of fresh or frozen fruit would be a serving. Quarter cup of dried fruit would count for a serving for this one as well too. And then this just kind of goes over, we want to choose, like we were talking about, we tend to eat about over 60% of the standard American diet is coming from processed packaged foods. So ideally, we'd be kind of backing off on more of the processed options for some of these. So unprocessed fresh fruits and vegetables, fantastic. Frozen, great option as well too. Canned kind of falls in this moderately processed category, simply because canned veggies we're usually adding sodium, which we want to be cutting back on. Canned fruits we're usually adding added sugar. So if we can get the low sodium canned veggies, or the fruits canned in their own juices, then they're really pretty minimally processed. They're a great option as well too. Canned, if you've got some full sodium canned goods at home too, if you drain them and give them a nice thorough rinse under water, we can get rid of about 40% of the sodium as well too. So kind of a nice way to use some of those up. And then the more heavily processed would be like the sweetened fruit-based desserts, fried snack-based foods. Those we might not count for these fruits and veggies. All right, next one is whole grains. So do you eat a half cup of, do you eat 2 servings of whole grains per day? A serving is a half cup of a cooked grain. We tend to eat lots of grains in the US. Most people, it's like over 90%, aren't eating the recommended servings of whole grains. So whole grains are great. We get the fiber benefit. They also tend to be higher in protein, other vitamins and minerals as well, too. We just get all of those benefits when we leave them intact instead of taking away that fibrous portion. Things like brown rice, oatmeal, whole grain breads can count for this as well too, whole grain products, barley, quinoa, any that you've tried and enjoyed. These ones are ones I always recommend if we're doing more of these. These are ones I'll batch prep. I'll make up, if I'm cooking up a thing of brown rice or oatmeal, I'll make up a bunch, toss them in the fridge, and then kind of pull it out to use throughout the week. A lot of them freeze really well too, so you can always lay them flat in a gallon-sized freezer bag, pop them in the freezer. They last for about 4 months in the freezer. Processing, again, intact whole grains, cut, rolled, shredded grains, moderately processed, kind of the whole grain foods might fall into this category, still a great option. There's usually other stuff added to it, like breads, typically they're having some sodium, sugar, other things added to it. The best bread I found at the grocery store is that Ezekiel brand bread. If you've ever seen that one, it's usually in the frozen section because it doesn't have any preservatives. Dave's Killer bread, people usually like that one, and that one can be a pretty decent choice as well too. So just label reading, looking for ones that don't have a ton of extra salt, sugar. More highly processed, so refined grains, we've just taken away all of the fiber, so we just miss out on that fiber benefit. And then kind of the snack. Beans. Do you eat a half cup of beans per day? I don't know. Most people I talk to are not eating beans regularly. That's fantastic. That's great. That's more than most people on average. We're a few times a week too. They're just a really nice lean source of protein and really great source of fiber. But like we talked about, if the goal is to add in more beans, doing it slowly and consistently, kind of regularly having more of those beans intake very gradually is going to kind of promote that good tolerance. Same thing, unprocessed beans, lentils, peas, minimally processed. Has anyone here ever tried tofu before? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, great. Not. We have a couple beans that we'll try out today. We've got some roasted chickpeas, which are just kind of whole beans. I do have some tofu I'm going to toss in our smoothie as well too, which, if you're blending it up, it's kind of maybe a nice way to sneak it in. So kind of just a fun way to maybe try out tofu. It's kind of it's got a texture to it. So, but it takes on whatever flavor you're cooking it with. So maybe a fun way to try out beans.
Yeah, I've also tried to make tempeh, but even though I follow all the directions, it doesn't turn out like the stuff I had in the restaurant that was so good.
Oh.
It was great. The stuff at home, not so great.
That's good. Yeah, it's
it takes a lot of, you gotta steam it, you gotta marinate it, you gotta all that.
yeah, and then get it crisp. Otherwise, it's kind of otherwise it's gonna be a texture thing too. So yeah, it's I do more tofu just because I find it a little bit easier to work with, and it does take on whatever flavor you give it, but it does have it's a texture I think for a lot of people as well too, which you won't notice in the smoothie, I promise. More moderately processed. So canned beans kind of fall into this category, again, simply because of the sodium. You can get the low sodium canned beans. That's what I use most of the time because I like the variety, I like the convenience. So they're great. They're minimally processed. Veggie-based meats like meat alternatives, they can be a nice option as well too if we're working on maybe just gradually adding in some more of these beans for lean protein as well. And then last is nuts and seeds. Do you eat an ounce of nuts and seeds or avocado per day on most days? An ounce is about a quarter cup of like nuts or seeds. Nut butters, like peanut butter, counts as well too. About 2 tablespoons is a serving size for the nut butters. And then this one, again, ideally we'd be choosing some of the less processed options. So the raw unsalted, great. Dry roasted is a great option as well too. Trying to watch kind of the sodium if we're watching the salt content. Natural nut butters are an awesome option. They usually are just made with the nuts, no other ingredients. Some of the other ones just tend to have some added oils, sugar, sodium, just kind of keep an eye on those. The more highly processed would be the ones you might see at the fair. I don't know if the fair is still going on, but those kind of sweet and coating nuts. Alrighty, and then we move over to that next column, so the foods to try and maybe limit our intakes of. So the first step is those less healthy fats. So you mentioned kind of cholesterol levels. These we want to limit because they're the ones that kind of contribute to that plaque buildup in our blood vessels or arteries. They're what kind of drives that less healthy cholesterol. They also are pro-inflammatory. So trying to limit these saturated fats, ideally to 13 grams or less per day. Most people in the US are eating about 36 grams on average. It's very easy to get more than is recommended. Things like butter, the fats we get from like animal products, couple tropical oils, coconut and palm oil are both also very high in saturated fats. Coconut oil is more solid room temperature. Any liquid room temperature oil is going to be a better option for cooking, for example. Deep fried foods. So trans fats, ideally we would eliminate as much as we can too. It's getting easier. They're kind of changed the laws around trans fats. And then saturated fats ones we want to limit. And then just getting more of our fats coming from these healthier sources. So like we talked about, things like fish, those vegetable oils, olives, avocados, nuts and seeds, kind of great sources of those healthy fats. Just another photo is kind of showing fat content of foods looking at saturated fats. This highlights coconut in green. I really put it more up in the red. Coconut's a pretty high saturated fat food. I'd use it kind of more sparingly. Cheeses, fuller fat dairy, and can reduce our like get lower fat dairy products is a better way to incorporate those. And then again, it's impossible to get 0 grams of saturated fat, and things like that since we have some, but much lower concentration. All right, and then our next one is red and processed meats. You mentioned those as well. And none of these are all or nothing, like I kind of said at the beginning, because this one sounds very, yep, I already see it. This one sounds very restrictive for a lot of people. Do you limit red or processed meats to 2 servings or less per month? And like I said, none of this is all or nothing. Red meats and processed meats both tend to be more pro-inflammatory, more so the processed meats as well too. So those might be a good one to kind of start backing off on, like the bacon, the hot dogs, the sausages. Not that we can never have them, but maybe limiting frequency. Choosing more lean options, the lower fat options for red meats, and we're having those. A great way just to start with this one is like that photo shows. Sticking to a serving size when we have these foods. We can't go to any restaurant and get close to 3-ounce serving of steak. Typically, we often have much larger portions. So even just the serving size would be a great place to get started with this one as well. All right, again, last couple. We already talked a little bit about sodium. This one I think is one of the hardest ones because it's in everything. So label reading is a great habit to get into. Ideally, we would limit our sodium to 2,000 milligrams or less per day. That's typically, that just means most heart patients are given that recommendation. And like we talked about, processed foods, canned goods, packaged foods, and still trying to limit the table salt. Going out to eat in restaurants with fast foods tends to be a little bit higher as well too. So looking up the nutrition information beforehand can kind of give us a better idea how much we're getting. Yeah.
I was wondering how that works with people with like hyponatremia, whether they need to up their levels are so low that
Yeah.
they're trying to stay in the balanced area.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would bounce that one back to your physician as well too, because sometimes I've seen both. We're like, oh, maybe we just need to add a little bit more sodium if we have kind of those low levels. Sometimes if we're retaining fluid, our blood levels might look more diluted. So like our sodium level on our blood panel might be low, but maybe it's because we're retaining extra fluid, so it's kind of diluting it. So limiting the sodium will help with that fluid retention to kind of bring that number back up to normal. So I've seen both. So I always tell people just to kind of touch base with your physician if they have a more specific recommendation for you as far as the sodium dose. Because yeah, it kind of could go a little confusing because it could maybe go either way. Yeah, that's a great question. Getting to the last couple, we've got added sugar. So if you limit added sugar, these recommendations come from the American Heart Association. Pretty restrictive. They recommend about 24 grams per day for women, which is about 6 teaspoons worth of sugar. A teaspoon has about 4 grams. 36 grams or less per day for men, which is about 9 teaspoons of added sugar. What we drink is maybe a great place to start with looking at this one. Kind of what we like to snack on, the sweets. It's almost like sodium. It feels like they add it to a lot of packaged foods at the store as well too. So just a good one just to be more aware of. And then if you were keeping track, you're welcome to kind of add it up. But like I said, I think just picking one of these categories to kind of maybe set a goal around is a great place to get started with this. And then picking another one. And I think that first column there of the foods to incorporate more of is most important. You know, getting in those good health promoting foods, I'd say, would be kind of the place to start is what I would recommend. And then this is just one of my favorite visuals. I use it all the time. I think this is a great kind of goal for setting up our meal times. You know, we've got our protein source. It's not, you know, we tend to make protein kind of the center of the plate, you know, making sure we're incorporating it, but kind of watching the portion sizes for some of those, choosing the leaner options where we can as well too, incorporating more of those whole grains, and then starting to kind of bulk up on those fruits and vegetables is really kind of a great goal. And even just starting with that portion of the plate, this side can kind of look like whatever, and then starting to bulk up on those fruits and veggies can maybe be a good place to get started for incorporating a lot of these principles. Any other questions before we start kind of busting out some food and making some smoothies? You're like, let's just feed us. Let's eat.
It's been like 19 minutes.
Okay, it should be done then.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, please.
I don't know. I don't know how this works. It's good, it's there. It's gonna be
Those are expensive.
I have one of those ninjas.
I'm sorry?
I have a ninja, and I like it. But they can be spendy.
I got a Ninja blender.
Yeah,
That works really, really good.
that's what I use too, yeah.
Well, I don't know, that's what
And as soon as it first starts getting.
She probably read a study like what they have we different stage.
So it doesn't continue to get softer or get too soft. Yeah. They're just looking at it. For a while.
Click on this. This is just for now, but
I don't know.
I had one the other day that was going to be something like somebody called me and read this song.
How much one?
You're a duty.
And I was like, that's not the I know.
Was that
So this is the tofu. So I'm gonna whip up my potatoes are taking a little bit longer than usual because this oven is not quite as powerful as the one I have at home. So I'm just gonna give those just the time that we take to whip up our smoothie, and then we'll serve everything. So this is the tofu. You could do like yogurt at home, like a Greek yogurt, or would be definitely an alternative option as well. So this I got, I actually took this on Amazon. It's silken tofu. It's much softer in texture. Nice to kind of throw into a smoothie. It's very like silky. If I'm using it at home, I get the firmer, the extra firm. But then you've got that different texture. So it's kind of all about the texture with preparing it. Sitting here to do smoothies regularly. Like to make smoothies. Okay. Do you throw any veggies?
Just fruits like strawberries and blueberries.
Okay. Yeah.
I put chia seeds and flax seeds,
Perfect.
and I have a plant-based protein powder,
Awesome. Awesome.
and then I use almond milk.
Okay.
So
great.
it's like,
Perfect.
and then blueberries and everything.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Smoothies are one of my favorite ways if people aren't big veggie fans, or especially leafy greens. Changes the color, doesn't really do much to the taste. If you throw enough fruit in there, you're going to taste the fruit mostly. So great way to kind of sneak in some extra veggies, extra fiber. So we're going to throw in, I'm doubling the recipe. I've got enough to quadruple it if we need to, but it calls for about a cup per serving. So I'm just going to do kind of a nice little handful. If you're doing it at home, maybe start small with the spinach, and you can kind of start slowly ramping it up to your liking. But and then we're going to throw in some frozen fruit. Calls for 6 frozen strawberries. That kind of ends up being about a cup-ish. So perfect. And then if you have a nice high-powered blender, I like to freeze. If I have bananas that are kind of starting to turn on me, I like to chop them up and throw them in the freezer. It's kind of a nice way to keep them for later. They're a really great smoothie base. They add nice creamy texture. Sometimes I even do it like, it's called, if you look up ice cream recipes, it uses bananas as kind of the base, and you can kind of add, sometimes I'll add like peanut butter, cocoa powder, or you can add like fruit for kind of a more fruity ice cream alternative. It's pretty tasty. I would go in knowing it's bananas. So if you go in thinking of ice cream, it's not be disappointed, but pretty tasty. Alrighty, and then I love the chia, the flax, all great ways to get some of those omega-3s like we're talking about. Good little piece of fiber as well too. So we're just going to throw in some couple tablespoons of chia seeds. And then could you grab this one behind you? Okay. And then we're going to toss in some soy milk, whatever milk you like, you could use for this one. Almonds, yeah, almonds great. Yeah, almonds great. It kind of doesn't have much of a, it kind of is nice. You get like the vanilla unsweetened, and kind of nice, adds just a little bit of flavor. I like soy milk. It's a little bit more comparable to like regular milk. It's got a little bit more protein, kind of if we're looking for the protein boost as well. Thank you.
I use coconut milk a lot, but now I think that I probably shouldn't.
Coconut milk is one I recommend to use maybe for cooking, but I wouldn't use it maybe as an everyday milk alternative just because of the saturated fats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is almond milk one of the saturated fats?
Nope, almond milk's great. Yeah, almond milk's a nice option. You can get I like the vanilla unsweetened if I'm throwing it in like a smoothie. If you're watching like the sugars, but yeah, I think the almond is a great option as well.
What about the oat milk?
Oat milk, I think is a fine option too.
It's kind of what
I kind of just look at labels. I look for ones that don't have a ton of extra stuff added to them. Sometimes I'll add like oils and things just to kind of help with the texture binding and stuff too. But I think it's kind of finding what we like and what works best for us. I I'm gonna do about a cup and a half. It says a half cup to a cup for milk for the smoothie, and I'm doubling it. So we'll start there and we can always add a little bit more. Do the full cup of milk, add a little bit more just because it's a little thick for me. So color, maybe not the prettiest, it's that spinach in there. We could always throw in a couple more strawberries if we wanted to kind of brighten it up a little bit. I'm gonna have you taste it when I grab a cup and let me know if we might just add more strawberries before we serve it up anyways. Oh, it smells good. I know what you think.
It's sweet enough.
You think good?
Yeah.
Can you taste the strawberry? Should we add a little more?
You can probably add.
A little more. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of banana. I think we'll throw in a couple more strawberries just to give it, just so you can taste it. But oh my gosh, maybe.
So is there anything I've seen or heard about soy interrupting hormones like with estrogen or
Yes.
something?
Yeah, great question. That's kind of a nutrition myth. They were like, oh, soy's high in estrogen, and they just kind of blew that up. They're like, it increases risk of breast cancer for women, messes up hormones for men. Not the case. It's a different type of estrogen. It's processed in our bodies differently. It could cross that threshold if you were, drinking like bathtubs full of soy a day. You could have, you could have soy milk, you could have tofu, you could have edamame, you could eat several servings of soy all throughout the day and you'd be totally fine. So yes, it's just like, it would take, no one could eat that much. It would take astronomical amounts to cross it. So actually, people who tend to eat higher soy food diets actually are associated with lower risk of breast cancer typically. So I think it kind of binds to.
So I can eat edamame again?
Yes.
I learned how to like it.
Yeah, absolutely, totally,
I love those things.
totally fine. It's kind of like an outdated myth that just not everyone's kind of debunked.
They really blow things out of proportion when it's like, it has to be so much and it.
Yes. And it was rat studies where it first came out, and then they were like, this isn't the case for humans, and the rats were eating like carfuls of, just crazy amounts. So, all right, there we go. Blend that up, and then we'll start serving up all the goods. All right. Just these up, and then we'll bring by the. Should I start tossing them out? Yeah, you can take them out. Yeah, perfect. You're not gonna try it.
I don't do strawberries.
Okay.
Leafy greens. It's mostly that.
Here.
Yeah.
Can I have your glasses?
You may.
Thank you.
You don't look like you smoothie eye.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. Guys, I got plenty, I can make more. It smells
Very
very
banana-y.
Yeah, and it's got, I'll say I added a little more strawberry, I could tell it was a little bit more banana heavy, but.
I don't know if he's coming back. You gotta go to the bathroom. Add more banana flavor, but it's good.
I just wanted to see how much.
Cause up to papers.
Oh, yeah.
So there's different.
I'll start with the hands, I'm gonna just kind of do a little dollop of sauce, a little bit, if they want to sauce.
I like it.
I'm gonna pour one for that.
Oh, perfect, yeah. I can make that, like I said, I've got stuff to make a bunch, so.
It's such a beautiful
It tastes pretty good.
concoction.
It's always, it's the color, right?
Yeah.
Mmm.
Perfect, and then, so we've got some, broccoli and carrots, so like I said, I had these covered in the tin foil in the oven. A couple shallots on there as well too. Just do a little sampling, but like I said, I'll have a lot more. But, if you're doing frozen, we're gonna roast up some frozen veggies. I would maybe start with them uncovered and just kind of check them throughout, just because we kind of want some of that liquid to yeah, escape. Okay. Carrots and carrots.
Sauce? I will not say no. to it.
Perfect.
So just, yeah.
Good.
I can't wait to try that sauce. So you covered these.
So I covered these.
I'm used to when I make my. I know, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I could have removed the foil for the last couple minutes to kind of help with that. It was just to kind of keep the broccoli from not singeing, since I had to temp the oven a little higher temperature, so I was using the beans and the potatoes. The beans and potatoes I didn't have for you. It's shallots.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
shallots. Yeah, kind of like red onion, garlic, to make sure it's fun.
Every time I've tried them.
And the dish on.
That's what it is.
Start to get it for the.
Separate.
Okay.
Yeah, you, and then you have to like stir it up together. Yeah. You get little.
So the sweet potatoes, the recipe says to peel them. We peeled half. We left the skin on half too. We just kind of give them a nice thorough scrub. The skin's a great way to kind of build up fiber intake as well too. And you can eat the skin. I can eat the skin absolutely. And if I just have steps when I'm cooking, that's what I like to do at home because I'm lazy. So.
My whole family eats the skin a lot, so.
Perfect. Yeah, great way to do it.
Costco also has a pre-frozen bag of like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, sweet potatoes, and something else, and it's seasoned really nicely, so something faster.
Throwing you.
Brussels sprouts, I guess. I do, can't, but I have these. Same thing, you do.
I've got plenty more stuff. I'll come back to you later.
Thanks.
Readjust the right. So the chickpeas get a little crispy with this recipe. If you have an air fryer, I like to do like these in the air fryer because they get really nice and crunchy, crispy.
Yeah. Step on the scale, and start talking to me. I love chickpeas. I have found a lot of really creative recipes to add chickpeas.
Sorry.
I was like, I don't know that.
It wants to leave. And then you can make, they kind of make different, different flavors and they're pretty versatile.
Yeah, you can do a lot with them. They kind of have a mix, neutral flavors and kind of, and with that dish, I like to kind of do the sauce. I did the sauce inside just to not overwhelming, but I like to kind of mix it all together to kind of get that nice sauce flavor along with the veggies. But any questions you guys have?
Was there any, did you put any seasonings on the, or
So I just did a little bit of black pepper with the veggies and a little bit of, I did use the olive oil that the recipe calls for. So I did a little bit of oil, a little bit of black pepper. You could always zhuzh it up a little bit before you toss it in the oven. Or sometimes I like to roast stuff alone by itself, and then I'll add some seasonings and kind of toss it, maybe just the last few minutes of roasting just to get that flavor, but then they don't get, sometimes if I'm using like herbs and things, they get a little bit too hot. So it'd be a really nice way to, you guys toss stuff in some seasonings. Onion and garlic powder, I think, would be a nice addition to the veggies, just to kind of add that nice base flavor as well.
trying to learn about new seasonings. I don't know what some of these taste like, like the cumin or the, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something else that was mentioned. Yeah, I'm so used to just using lemon pepper or
Right.
The garlic salt.
Kind of our go-tos. Yeah. Cumin's usually like a base in like taco seasoning, so it kind of has like almost that like, I use that kind of if I'm making like if I'm cooking up black beans, I'll throw in like some cumin and maybe a little bit of like chili powder.
Or like paprika, I don't know what paprika is.
Paprika is dried and powdered bell peppers. I just learned that recently.
Really?
Yeah, so if you like bell peppers, you might kind of like the taste of paprika, but I like smoked paprika. It kind of just has a different, nice kind of smoky, different flavor. So.
We like savory at home, not like spicy.
Okay.
Because we're pretty sensitive to spice.
Yes.
But, try to find out how to change the flavor profile a little bit to make it interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not, we're not using the same stuff.
Right.
It
Kind of
always
switch
tastes
it
the
up a
same.
little bit.
I hate cooking at home because it's always the same thing. And so,
Yeah. And I like to pick out maybe one or two recipes that look good. I always have a bunch of recipes I've saved online or cookbooks that I flip through, but I'll maybe pick one or two a week just to kind of try out and then kind of bookmark just a good one and work them back for later. But I think that's kind of a nice way to just kind of start using it to trying out some different stuff instead of having to do, a whole bunch all at once too. But yeah. Alrighty.
So there's a question about getting rid of sodium in high sodium foods like hot dogs by boiling it first before you put it on barbecue or anything like that. Do you know if there's any way to quantify how much you're getting rid of?
Oh gosh, not that I know of. I probably would get rid of a little, some. But I think a lot of it would stay as well too. But I would get rid of some of it kind of. But yeah, I don't know exactly kind of the amounts.
And then another question about sodium is cooking foods in like a barbecue sauce, like cooking meats in a barbecue sauce where it's sitting in it for some time and then taking it off. How do you count for how much sodium is left with that, the sauce that stayed behind that you're not using, you're just using it for flavoring? Does a lot of the sodium cross in when you're cooking, or should you just kind of estimate how much sauce is total?
I just kind of estimate how much sauce you probably ended up using with the.
That's
So if you put it in a cup and you've got 3/4 of a cup left, I kind of just count the 1/4 cup that you used for the.
Okay.
With the food, yeah. What I would do. Yeah. Good questions.
Thank you, that was very good.
Yes, I've got plenty left too, so I won't hold you guys hostage. You're welcome to leave, but there's nothing after this, so stay, eat, chat. But yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I have any takers on any seconds right now. I've got plenty of all of it. So just holler. More smoothie? Absolutely.
Okay.